Ganesh, you've used the word SLM a couple of times, and earlier also you spoke about how the NLP capabilities are what is fundamentally changed from what it was 10 years ago to now. I mean, or the ability to kind of ascertain what is that voice and what is that voice saying, and consequently we're able to kind of do better. My question is, I think a couple of my portfolio startups have actually kind of mulled about building their own SLMs. They are tech, and think about them as enterprise SaaS technology companies. Now, those SLMs could be for text or voice, but I think one of the things that I have not been able to kind of wrap my head around is if there are companies like OpenAI, Gemini, etc., which are able to kind of build uh, LLMs with far deeper context data and compute, to Mandeep's point, should, let's say, a Series A, Series B kind of startups, which are in the uh, enterprise SaaS, fintech side of the equation, should they be actually going about building an SLM themselves? I hear the margin argument, Ganesh, but I think what reasons beyond margin should actually one be building an
I
SLM
think
for?
it's not the margin when I talk about SLMs. That's just that. That's a core technology piece, right? That's probably the ASRs and other stuff, right? And the core engineering that makes you scale. But SLMs are for B2B applications. You don't have a choice largely because the real reason is to reduce your hallucinations, right? The real reason is to make your products more accurate, right? And then you augment your SLMs with your tool calling and your knowledge bases, your RAGs and other stuff, right? But in the way things are structured, you you're solving problems for us. If you're solving problems for a specific organization, right, or an industry, there is really no other option today in the B2B sense other than to have a smaller model so that it fundamentally does not hallucinate. Now, it's a real-time system, your benefits of lower latency as well. But even otherwise, there are definite, now if again depends on the application. If you're doing a very generic application for, somebody who, wants to ask for what is a loan process in India, right? And probably your general LLMs are good enough. But if you're trying to solve that for a specific, like a home loan, and for a specific organization that services home loans, you're better off with SLMs, where you have specific answers that you will throw out with at least a higher level of confidence that you'll have lesser hallucinations. I think hallucination piece is a big one here.
There are different levels of tiers that we can build here, and I share the same sentiment as what Ganesh spoke of. Like what we typically see, and this is not just Salesforce's view, but the broader lens of the industry, is SLMs are more like very lightweight, task specific, and could be very much focused around a particular use case, or could be very much on device for those set of use cases. Very helpful when you're trying to do smaller and simpler tasks like, hey, where is my order, look up information, something that is not too utterly and deeply complex. And SLMs can and are today getting escalation handles to the larger language models, where they are today interchangeably operating in a hybrid scenario. And that is the agent orchestration that we are trying to mature as a whole ecosystem today, where the hybrid approach really gives you more control on how you can define and put a bolt on determinism. Because the biggest gap that industry still has today is these models do not have a closed learning loop. If you're a customer who has interacted with, let's say, HDFC Bank, and they have an agent that is a voice agent, and let's say your last experience was very frustrating because you couldn't get the credit card delivered to you on time because you were supposed to travel and get that card delivered to you before that. Now, the next time you come back to HDFC and begin your conversation, the agent won't remember that you had a very frustrating 15-minute conversation back and forth with this agent. And it won't sympathize.
Agent built using LLM or an SLM?
You both today. Either. So what is typically going to change, and that's where the SLM and SLM versus the LLM conversation, or SLM plus LLM conversation, is where can we plug this learning loop? And learning loop is basically what I love to call, and this is probably the next $1 trillion industry that is about to explode in front of us, is the agent memory. And to have a good solid agent memory for voice, for any other models, you need to have the unlock that Mandeep talked about, your data. And those brands and those companies have a very solid clean room data strategy, are going to be able to supply with long-term and short-term agent memory, which voice agents are going to act upon. And I think that is typically what I see. SLMs will be able to act upon it very quickly because of for the context that they can probably pass. LLMs will be able to act upon it for the longer context. And I think that's the opportunity gap that I'm typically seeing today. But my take is SLM versus LLM almost go in a hybrid.
I think I'd like to support Ajay on that.
And
Before I, just to correct myself from my previous conversation. So it's always a multi-agent solution to a problem, and because we do real-time systems and simpler systems, I probably spoke, a lot on the SLMs, and that's what we use a lot. But to solve a generic agent or a problem in an industry, it would be a mix of multi-agents, and some agents would use SLMs, some might use LLMs, right? But in a specific voice scenario where your latencies are shorter, you probably will use more on the SLM side. But stand corrected on what Ajay said. I think it's always a mix of both.